Welcome back to Our Life Simplified. I'm Laura. So now we're going to move it outside for today's video. Today is May 13th. Come take a walk with me. So today I'm going to go through my garden. I see a bunch of stuff growing in there. A lot of it's weeds, but some of it is the stuff that I planted. I did a video. It was recorded on April 15th, so it was about 3 weeks ago. It was my experiment because in the forecast, the 10-day forecast, there was no chance of frost. It was showing that it wasn't going to get any lower than 50 degrees, even at night. And so it was my experiment, and I usually know better. I usually wait until the last weekend of April or first week in May to plant my summer garden. And since it had been unusually warm this year, I went ahead and I planted. So I'm going to show you the results of that. And if you haven't had a chance to see that video, I'll go ahead and pop that link on the screen. Okay, so the first thing I see, and it's kind of funny, but it's kind of not because it's going to put work on me. I am noticing you see all that green all throughout. Looks like beautifully growing plants that I may have intentionally planted, but I did not intentionally plant those. As I look at that, I think I know what it is. I think those are from my tomatillas. In my gardening video that I made, I explained how I decided to plant my 2 tomatilla plants over here to give it plenty of space to grow, because they got so huge, which is what I planted over here. And they were probably in the vicinity. I had I think 4 plants in this vicinity, but it got so huge and it was growing up and out. I should have probably pruned it better to keep it more under control, but I didn't. It was growing within the tomatoes that I had grown. And that is what it is. I know that's what it is. Oh my goodness. I was going to start pulling all of those because I saw them growing through here, but I didn't know exactly what it was. I know I sprinkled some basil down. They grow so easily. In the past, when I've thrown seeds down, sometimes I forget what I have thrown down and I end up pulling them thinking they're weeds. So I've learned, let it grow a little bit more and see what it is. So I've got my work cut out for me. I'm going to have to pull all of those. And oh, look at the dill. So all of that back along there, again, I just sprinkle seeds. That's dill coming up. Some of that may have come back from last year because that's where I planted them. And I planted cucumber seeds back through here. I see a couple of them coming up, which is great. And then I'll just use the fencing to help vine it and trellis it up off the ground. So I have my work cut out for me. These are chives. Look how beautiful. They've even flowered. This is a marigold that I planted. A lot of these are weeds, so I'll get that up and out. Here's a marigold. And my tomato plants. So this is the garlic. Doing fantastic. That's the one where I did the experiment where I planted it in January, which I know you're supposed to plant it in the fall here in our zone 6B. I live in Southern Illinois, so you're supposed to plant garlic no later than October 1st and let it overwinter because the cold is what helps it to bulb underground. But there are my tomato plants. They're doing pretty well. I'd say that's probably a good 6 inches. When you go back and look at that other video, you'll see how small they were. They were just teeny tiny plants, but I wanted to get them in the ground because I knew that my soil would help because of how nutrient dense it is. When I clean my chicken's coop, I end up throwing it in here between growing seasons. Here's another tomato plant that's doing fantastic. When it gets a little bit bigger, I'll start staking it. And there's one back there. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's another one. Tomato plant and a tomato plant back here. So that's growing. These are doing great. Now, I see all of my tomatoes made it except there was one up here that did not make it. So I see one back there that did make it. I was planting 2 on each row. Let me get this cleaned up so I can show you better. Here are my snow peas. They're doing great. They're flowering. They're not as full as I wanted it. They didn't grow back through there, but that's okay. Planted my basil. They looked really pathetic when I planted them. I did try to plant some as seedlings, and honestly, I just think they do better whenever I throw the seeds down themselves. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab some of those basil seeds that were left on that plant so I can plant basil in between my tomatoes and pepper plants. Okay, in here, oh, it looks like, I think I threw some dill in here. Ah, I got a rogue tomato plant growing. Same with here. Oh my goodness, I have several rogue tomato plants. I did plant some seeds. I don't remember what it was, but I did plant some seeds through here. I see some weeds here. So I just kind of come through and pick them. Got some mushrooms growing. That might be one of the seeds. I'll just leave that and see what that turns out to be. Got my marigold, marigold, marigold. And that is celery. I threw some scrap celery in the garden just to see if it would grow. And it looks like it's doing pretty good. My carrots, I need to thin these out better, I think. That might be an onion, a rogue onion. I have some cucumber plants growing here with some weeds. I'll get those pulled. My lettuces are doing great. I had to pull my spinach. They all went to seed. Got some lettuce. Here are my garlics. I've got soft neck and hard neck back here. Okay, so something got in here. I started planting. Oh, they're eating them. Maybe I'll put a bird nest or something over here. I'll have to replant some. I have sunflower seeds that I planted in there. Got some onion. Here's a few of the garlics on this side and that side. And it looks like I got some bean plants that came back. They must have fallen because they're growing in the middle. I try to grow them on the trellis. And then I have some snow peas. I got some snow peas on there. This is my asparagus. And I don't know if you saw in my previous video where I was talking about last year where I sprinkled asparagus seeds, which is this now. Can you see? I got to get that propped up better. But you can see all the asparagus fern now, but it grew, like you could see, it looked like asparagus. Oh, you see, I don't know if you can see. There's some that look like asparagus back there. As they grow, they get this, like the fern look to it. I don't know if you can see here. I have a rogue tomato plant that's growing. I was thinking about maybe leaving it if it's just the one, but I'll have to kind of adjust and move the ferns. So this has room to grow. Anyways, in my previous video, I told you that I sprinkled cilantro seeds, which they're coming back amongst my asparagus seeds because I forgot that I sprinkled asparagus seeds down. So I've got both of those coming back there. So I planted, this is the other side. Look how beautiful. I got some snow peas growing. Oh, look at this one. This one has a bunch of snow peas. Snow peas, snow pea, snow pea. Look at all those. They're doing fantastic. This one is doing the best. I have my nasturtium planted over there and my oregano, a basil. This was a pepper plant. This looks like a rogue tomato plant. Oh my gosh, I got a couple more rogue tomato plants going on in some of these other areas too. So my pepper plants didn't do as well. I'm gonna have to, in the previous video I told you part of my experiment was I was gonna go ahead and plant them, and if they didn't make it, I was just gonna go ahead and keep my seedlings and then like replant anything that didn't make it. So thankfully I do have that. And that looks like tomatillas as well. Goodness, look at all the rogue stuff going on here. I got my marigold. Marigold's a great plant to have, a great companion plant to have in your garden. It helps detour pests. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this. I planted some melons. They're like cantaloupes. They were the sweetest cantaloupes ever that I've ever tasted. So I got those planted again, and then I have the fencing available for them to trellis up on. Here is a snow pea plant, and we got some flowers. So I don't know if you've ever seen snow peas grow, but the pods, the pea pods, grow right out of the flowers. Can you see that? They grow right out of them. Pretty cool, huh? And my nasturtiums, they didn't look super healthy when I put them in the ground, but look, they're doing beautifully. So my project today is I'm going to go through and weed. And funny story, in my last video, I preached about don't forget to label your plants. Well, guess what I forgot to do? I forgot to label every one of my pepper plants. So I had to go back in the video and watch to see which ones I planted where. So I got those labeled, and I'll be placing out the name cards today as well. So I went ahead and I pulled majority of the weeds. Now you can clearly see where the tomato plants are growing. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and label better the plants. This one you can still see, but there were a couple that completely wiped off. So again, these are of my tomato plants. I did label the tomato plants, but unfortunately the name tags, I'll call them name tags, they wore off. Like you can't even see what that one was. So, thankfully I recorded what I did because I went back to see which plants were what, and I got these and rewrote all the names of the tomatoes and peppers because I didn't label any of the peppers on the other side. And hopefully these will last longer. Now that I have everything labeled, I am going to go back through and see which peppers didn't make it. And I noticed there was only one tomato plant that didn't make it. So I'm going to take the seedlings I currently have and replant in the designated areas. So I went ahead and I grabbed this plant, and I'm just going to take these seeds and sprinkle them around and in between some of my tomato plants and pepper plants over here, so I can have the benefit of not only eating the basil whenever we would like, but also it's a great companion plant to tomatoes and peppers. I just grabbed a handful. I basically just pulled it off of the stem, grabbed a handful. The seeds are inside of there. So I'm just going to, I don't know if you can see some of the seeds that are popping out of the shells, but I am just going to rub them in between my fingers, throw them down, and sprinkle them in between my plants. Can you see the black seeds that are in there? I took them and really rubbed them in between my fingers. So those are the seeds. Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to continue watching videos like this, whether it's gardening, chickens, cooking, grilling, woodworking, we're working on all those projects. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any videos. I am working and trying to convince my husband to let me video him on what he's going to cook today. We'll see if he'll let me. Crossing fingers. He's going to be making a blackened catfish with Pontchartrain sauce. So hopefully he'll let me video that, and hopefully that will be a upcoming video. If you like these videos, please consider subscribing. And until next time, thank you for watching.